All right, we're back once more with Beth Smith. But Beth this time, I know, right? Beth this time is joined by Olga, also one of my favorite people on this planet. Top 10 human, right? And this is a session that I have personally been looking forward to for quite some time because I love their company, StickerGiant. Beth is COO at StickerGiant, and Olga has a very long title, but it goes along the lines of like organizational development and learning manager at StickerGiant. And this session is about building a culture that wins, mostly oriented around values and values with meaning. So I get to just turn it over to whoever wants to start. Thank you both for being here, and I'm so excited for this session.
Thank you, Morgan. Beth, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I do. I'm mostly interested in these little graphics here that we chose. I didn't think about this until yesterday when I was kind of prepping. You got the laser shark, and I got dinosaur, and it looks like your laser shark is trying to laser me. So I got like a StickerGiant shield up here. So
yeah, it's on purpose. It's on purpose.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us. It's such an honor to have an opportunity for Olga and I to talk about values, some of the work we've done at StickerGiant, how values have been an important part of StickerGiant from early days. And we're going to talk about some of the work we've done more recently. So we really do see values directly connected with culture. And I think you'll see that throughout this presentation. I do want to note that we're live streaming on a number of outlets here, media outlets. I think if you're on Facebook, if you want to drop a question, we'll try to tend to those. And a number of the other outlets, the local TV station, YouTube, I think Facebook, you can also drop those in. So we'll try to do our best to weave in some questions. Olga and my style, you'll see as we go through, is we will go back and forth and banter a bit. And we would have loved to have done this live so you guys could have joined in on the dialogue. So if you have a question, drop it and we'll do our best. Olga?
So values are a thing. They matter, right? We all have personal values that drive the shape that our life takes, the choices that we make in our own world, with our families, with the people we love. And similarly, a company's values inform the choices a company makes, the business, turn left or turn right. There's a lot to be said about why values matter. We won't linger too long in the kind of case making data here, but really to drop in, I want everyone on the call to just take a second to reflect on your own personal values. How do they inform the choices you make? Maybe it's the food you eat. Maybe it's how quickly you return a phone call. Things like things big and small, right? Your values are this touch point that helps really firm up whether you are enjoying the life you're living or feeling sort of askew and off kilter. Similarly, in business, it can be where choices you've made for your business maybe don't quite feel in alignment with the path that you've chosen to carve out. So just to drop us into the topic here in this way, I want everyone to kind of pause and take a second. Beth, do you have anything to add on that kind of orienting before we drop into really our case study of what we've done at StickerGiant?
Yeah, I think, what's really interesting to think about is nobody doesn't have values. Right. You don't have a conversation with someone and talk about values and they're like, I don't have those. The same is true of companies, right? Almost every company knows that they've got to help employees know what the values of the company are for alignment reasons. It's really interesting to think about when we get outside of our values personally, right? We know we get into some troubled areas there. And it's also true in our companies and our organizations is if we're putting values out there and they're not easy for our employees to understand. At StickerGiant, we refer to each other as giants. So as Olga and I go back and forth, when we say giants, it's the replacement for employees. But how we get outside of our values personally and at work, and boy, the the difficulties that can engender and create. So hopefully you'll hear a little bit about how we've tried to consider that as we've put the values together.
So before we get too far on the way here, we want to share a little bit more with all of you on what are these values we are going to keep invoking in the rest of our talk here today. So for the next couple of minutes, we've got our leadership team, an amazing group of humans who run the company on behalf of all giants, on behalf of our owners, bringing to life what the values mean to them. So I'm going to play this video for you, and you'll get to hear a little bit from their mouths of what do our giants believe our values to be.
The way I experience all in as a cultural value at StickerGiant is that we have a deep commitment to our people, and people become the reason why we develop a strategy for our business that has long-term success and value.
What I love about All In at StickerGiant is that it gives us a sense of balance in our lives. That value allows us to be 100% into our work when we are here at the company, but we also recognize that when we walk out that door, we can go home and take care of our personal lives, and it allows us to be successful in everything we do.
Even though we're tech-driven, we're so people-hearted, and that really makes us who we are at the end of the day.
All in means continuous improvement. You know, how can we serve our customers, whether those customers are internal or external, and how can we make those processes improve each and every day?
Walking around, talking with people, being engaged in what's happening within the business, and really setting that tone for everyone, that it's not just about the job or the role you do, but it's also about those moments of fun, and that we're just making stickers, and we can get a Nerf gun out and have those moments with each other.
The way I experience grow and learn as a value at StickerGiant is that all of our giants have ambition, and to help them realize that it's about creating a structure and an opportunity for them to grow and learn whatever they choose.
You know, since I've worked here, I've never heard anyone say that's how we've always done it. We've always encouraged people to think, how can we do it better? How can we do it faster, higher quality? And I think that speaks to our continuous improvement culture, specifically around our grow and learn core value.
I think the part about grow and learn that I love the most is that we have such clearly defined expectations of ourselves as a company and for one another. There's no hiding. We're open about sharing and learning from each other all the time.
Grow and learn means so much to each individual giant here. It's really about that ideas come from anywhere in the company, and they can take flight in all sorts of areas of operation to make our business more successful. So not honing in on just leaders bring this to the table. It's everyone. Everyone has the opportunity to educate themselves and learn more about the business so that they think like an owner and contribute to the business just as much as an owner would.
I think one of the things that we really do well here is we take best practices and we iterate on them, we give them that SG flavor, we make them even better, and we level up with them. And that's something that we do collaboratively here, and it's really amazing and special.
Department walls simply don't exist. It's really easy here to gain knowledge and expertise across the business.
When we talk about positive energy, we're not talking about a forced positivity, but just providing the ability to bring true psychological safety to each person so they can be authentic when they come in every day.
We're all on the same team. And what that means at its core is that we remember that we all come from different experiences, different backgrounds, different things that have impacted our lives. And so to keep positive energy within our culture, we have to keep that in mind. And it's not about putting on a smiling face. It's about helping others feel that they're welcome and supported.
I love that we drive our positive energy by being intentional about our culture. We take what we do so seriously to make our customers happy, but we make sure we have a heck of a lot of fun along the way.
We keep each other light in tone. We acknowledge when we have a great day or not a great day, and we keep ourselves in check and make sure that our humor and our positive energy spreads throughout the company every day.
Our StickerGiant values are so important to us around how we run our business. In our working document that describes each of the values, it contains 111 direct quotes from our giants. I am so excited about our business and how our values will continue to inform the direction that we take. Stay tuned. There's definitely more to come.
So hopefully you saw in that video and kind of got a feel from that video some of the tonality of what our values feel like in a lived way every day from the mouths of our directors. I think they did a great job in there capturing really some of those textures that did come out in those 111 quotes that Beth referenced in her closing piece there at the end. So we'll talk more about how we got there. We'll talk more about here what the process was, and hopefully give you all some ideas of maybe how to approach the question in a similar way for you. Beth, you want to take this one?
Yes, let's do it. I'm noticing I have the same outfit. It's almost like I have a StickerGiant uniform. I don't know, on camera I like put my StickerGiant hoodie and my, it's the same. It's fun.
We just gear up. We really do.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's all that StickerGiant pride, right? I don't even have a hat on today, which is an unusual day, right? I either have my Longbot versus everybody or my StickerGiant hat on.
Right.
Yeah, well, let's just, we'll frame this up a little bit for you so that you can sort of travel the journey with us, if you will. I do want to mention it is Longmont Startup Week, and StickerGiant is a 20-year-old company. Actually, we're celebrating 20 years in 2020 that we've been a company. So, oh my goodness, we have so much to be grateful for and thankful for our founder, John Fisher, who got us all started, right? And these values really do harken back to the early days. John started this company in his basement and then transitioned the company to a log cabin building out in Hygiene. And then certainly we're here now in 2 buildings right in the town of Longmont. So it's just really important. And I thought we would dial in a bit. Like it's different to do a values exploration with your company when you're a company that's been around for a while, as opposed to a new company, right? And you're establishing sort of new values in a startup. But, my hope is that the time you spend with Olga and I today, as we share our journey here with values, that you'll get some clues about how to do something new in a startup business that we can help you sort of maybe avoid or enrich some of the things, the directions that you take. So since we are a 20-year-old company, we had values in place. I've dropped an image here of what we call the Vision Action Plan. This is our Vision Action Plan for 2020. And we use a number of organizational systems to run StickerGiant and have for many years. And this one is an outtake from EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And classically in that system, this is called the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. We've adapted a little bit for our use over time. And the arrow here is pointing in that upper left quadrant to the values of the company. And that's the guidance that EOS gives organizations using their method. So values are really, it's the first thing you read on the VAP, we call it the Vision Action Plan. It is so heart and soul to everything we do. So we began to do some values work back in late 2018 and early 2019 to these values had already been in place, right? There were 3 were chosen. There was work that was done. And I think what's really important to know with culture is always changing, right? So you'll hear sometimes people will say, we want to hold on to our culture. And the reality is the more you try to hold on to it, you're like hindering the culture by not allowing it to breathe and live and be a true ecosystem. So we just knew it was time to touch the values again and revisit them. They stayed fairly whole from the origination of the values that were put in place. I think the original values were about 3.5 years old, and maybe a year and a half when we did this work. So we used the 2019 theme for the year, Honor Our Past, Build Our Future, in order to frame how we would communicate to the organization that we're going to revisit the values. So we really wanted to honor the integrity of what was already there. As you know, the culture was shifting and changing. We're growing quite rapidly. We needed to build the future together. I think the thing I'll mention here is certainly I can't imagine there's a person on this call that DE&I isn't in a prominent awareness for you with racism crisis and racial justice once again brought to the fore of our awareness. So DE&I stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think about this as the anchor to this as being a sense of belonging. So whatever you're going to do in your organization with your values, start with that idea is how are people going to gain more sense of belonging through the ways that you communicate your values. We mentioned the 111 quotes. We'll go through some of those, but from a DE&I consideration, you got to get more voices than just your leadership team or a subset of people, and you'll hear how we went about doing that. I'd taken a rock in late 2018 to start doing this values work, and I started with what?
What's a rock?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming today, Olga. Yes. See me later for your gift card. You win the prize. A rock is in the EOS methodology as well. And it's essentially an initiative, right? What many companies will call a goal or initiative for a quarter. The EOS approach uses the phrase rock. So I took a rock to begin this values work. It was so interesting, right? I've been at StickerGiant, I think right at a year, and I thought, well, we'll do focus groups. And as I started to engage thinking about scheduling these focus groups and who would be in them, I was like, oh my God, what am I thinking? That's not our style. So what we sort of organically discovered, and I would encourage you to look for the organic matter in your organizations, what's going to have the flavor that's meaningful in any sort of values work that you do. We just started doing pop-up meetings, and I would just go around and say, hey, we're going to talk about positive energy. Do you want to put your voice in? And people are like, yeah. So we had some that we did in departments intact, and we had cross-functional people that showed up, and it was really lighthearted. I mean, we just have our own vibe at StickerGiant, and doing a focus group, it's funny to me now, right? That just would have been sort of awkward. It would have been too sort of straight-laced, if you will, and sort of inside of a box. So we just had a ton of fun organically throwing, quotes up and people riffing on that. And we really, that's how we began. And then Olga entered 2019, and we had 2 more values to do. And she's going to take from here and tell you the richness that she brought to this exploration.
And I'll just add, I love something that Beth said at the start of this slide, which is that culture evolves, right? And if you're trying to hold tight to a specific iteration of that culture, a moment in time that feels really good, but you're adding new people, you're having people exit, the focus of your business might shift, COVID might happen, the world around us continues, right? And so once getting it right in one moment doesn't mean that it's going to be right in other moments. So having your values move with you is a big, very important thing. And how Beth was talking about these very organic, at StickerGiant, more casual end of the spectrum rather than more structured, the focus group style, more conversational rather than focus group style. That suits us and our culture. But you need to look at your culture and your group of humans to figure out what works best and what will resonate best.
Okay, can I say one more thing just to frame before we move on? So, the video we just showed is of the leadership team. And certainly John Fisher has entrusted the leadership team and this whole organization to continue his original vision here, which these values certainly have all kinds of his fingerprints on. I was reluctant to do a leadership video because I was just reluctant to do that. But what helps me is thinking about these 111 quotes that we have directly from giants. And what we learned from that process was really wholeheartedly and fully transparent is we are not, as a leadership team, leading these values. We lead behind them. So as from a leadership standpoint, it's just really important to understand for your culture. Doesn't mean that would be right for your culture. For us, it was so important that the leadership team is leading behind the values, not up in front of the values doing like, this is what y'all need to be doing. It's like, you tell us, and then we'll lead behind your voices. And I think that's just really, really an important thing to sort of frame what we're going to share with you.
Yeah. That idea too of leadership can say one thing, but if you don't have the people buying into whatever pretty phrases you're stating as a leader, it's empty. Whereas if your people are telling you, here's what this means, and I'll talk about a refinement here just to move into this next section. One of our values, we did start with 3 values that had been in play for several years at StickerGiant. One of them in particular changed, not quite a bit, but refined, I'll say, in really important ways. So I'll talk more about that when we get to that slide, but that's where the power of really talking to your people and understanding, what does this mean in your heart, in your experience, in your lived day-to-day interactions? The impact is deeper. And then leaders can say, got it, we've heard you, now I can lead behind what you've explained and the texture that you've added. It makes a big difference. So this exploratory roadshow, Beth described, she took a rock. So again, within EOS, the idea of you have a strategic direction you're trying to move within your company in order to get to where you want to be in 10 years and 3 years and 1 year. You chip away at the rocks of those goals that you've set as a leadership team. Within this EOS framework, they have specific processes and structures that you follow. More to learn about that if you want to Google that one, but she had a rock around defining the values. Did a first rotation on one, and then the other 2 were kind of hanging out there. So we needed to pull them all together, have a cohesive unit of 3. So last winter, before our crazy world changed so much that we're all living in right now, my past life is as a consumer researcher. So I would run focus groups, I would go do in-home ethnographies, shop-alongs, all those things. So I was very comfortable with this idea of a focus group. But when I landed at StickerGiant and Beth and I oriented to this conversation, this question around what are these values, what do they actually mean? In terms of my onboarding into the company, I was given a little graphic that said, here are the 3 values and here's a couple of dimensions for each. And I was like, well, that's cool. Give me more, right? Like I was craving more. So as we discussed and talked through, what are these values? How do we figure this out? This idea of a roadshow came up. So not so much focus groups, not the structure, not the agenda, not all those things, but really just casual, free-flowing discussion so that comfort was high, so that giants really felt comfortable saying, I agree, or I don't, right? And here's why. So the form that took shape was a roadshow. It was really important that it wasn't top down, but it was very organic, kind of people on up. We had a whiteboard, it had wheels, we had markers, we had 3 questions, and we had time, right? That's really literally all you need. Just carving out the space to do this and an openness to seeing what happens. No attachment to kind of a final output, but really truly seeing what bubbles up for people. And then it's in the data analysis and kind of clumping up that you start seeing these islands of truth come up. So I did, so when I kind of took the reins from Beth, 11 total rotations across our whole company with the whiteboard on wheels. We had really good participation. All departments were represented. 52 out of, at the time, we had 65 giants. 52 out of 65 is an amazing participation rate for anyone who's done research. I was pretty proud of that. Small groups, within these 11 rotations, between 3 giants to 7. And sometimes it would literally be like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? Come here. Oh, you're walking by. Come here. Grabbing people literally as they were just passing by. Or sometimes, you know, working with departments to say, like, do you guys have a few minutes, and working with their schedules. But anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes for each group. Very casual, very free flow, and just asking these 3 questions and seeing where things went, and jotting notes like crazy on the whiteboard, kind of mind mapping, if you're familiar with that exercise. If you're not, Google that one too. But it's a very visual kind of clustering of where ideas start building. And I would do a couple of rotations on the whiteboard and add to the mind map. And when the board got way too busy to write anything else, I'd go and transcribe all the notes and then start all over again. So it was iterative, it was very organic, and it was really pretty cool. Sometimes it was people all on the same team in these rotations. Other times it was people from completely different teams who rarely maybe have been in a shared kind of business-oriented conversation, socially, sure. But you get some really amazing, juicy, textured, layered reflections that come up when you invite your people to share a topic that maybe isn't one that's often asked of them to think on. On the left-hand side of the screen
so
here.
Olga, before you go on, I want to just riff a minute on one thing you said. You said, you know, all you need some markers and some time, and
Right.
you know, some people to circle up. Part of our culture is and our values around positive energy is appreciation. So you also need to have some a skilled facilitator, right? So which Olga certainly is with her background. And the other thing, right, a skilled facilitator can engender a sense of trust, right? A facilitator that, for whatever reason, just doesn't quite have the skill to sort of draw out people's voices, that can be really problematic when they're flat. I think you can see Olga's super animated. She's super into what she's doing. And this was one of the first initiatives that she took on. And our giants related to Olga so well just because she embodied, right? There was a sense of, oh, she's new, right? But geez, I'm digging, like she's just into this. And so it's really important who's out gathering the data, because that person is going to actually color the data to a degree. And it was just so wonderful to see Olga take this and move around. It was almost like her onboarding. She got to know all the giants. They were getting to know her. And it was just, yeah, I think some people would say it was a risk to take a brand new person and say, hey, could you do this? But just such a beautiful job of, because you do have to have a sense of trust to really get people, and there is a way to help people bring out the thing to say that they might be tentative on. So those were just the things I wanted to add into what you said.
I thank you for that. And yeah, Beth, you and I joke all the time about being business geeks and just getting way too jazzed up about all the like inner workings of what makes a thing go within a workplace. And yeah, it was fun. So thank you for flagging that. Like, it was fun. This is supposed to be fun, right? Like connecting with people, hearing what's true for them, hearing the anecdote from when this thing happened. It's a moment to create culture while you're trying to document and capture and codify culture. So there's the very academic end of this whole exercise, but absolutely there's the lived cultural moment component of this as well. And a lot of the feedback that we heard, I'm kind of getting to the punchline a little bit here, but after this was all done, the number of people that sought us out to say, thanks for asking us. We've never been asked that kind of thing before. Yeah. It was meaningful to our giants to have been included and just have been asked, right? So maybe they didn't have the time. Maybe they could just pop in for 5 minutes instead of the whole 20. But truly, it was a notable thing. So thank you for taking me back there. Beth, I'd kind of forgotten that part, but absolutely, this is a culture generating exercise if done right.
Yeah.
And, you know, having people who are very excited about it, driving the thing is.
You probably won't be surprised that I have one more thought, right? So it's really important also when scaling a business, right? And the theme here of Longmont Startup Week, right? If you're a small company, what we're talking about, you might be so small that this wouldn't be quite right. You might be actually small that this is absolutely right. So we're not putting anything out like this is the way. We're just sharing sort of our journey and offering it. But it might be absolutely right in a really small organization of just a few people that something is put into the culture from a value standpoint that doesn't have a lot of shape and voice in it. But you will need to, at some point, if you really want to, our purpose at StickerGiant is to be a great place to work for. So if you have ideals like that and visions like that, then you're going to have to figure out where you're going to infuse everything you're doing with the voices of the people that are going to relate to it. So just really important to say, you know, wherever you're scaling in your business, as a leader in that business, you want to think about when it's going to be right to add more texture to the values.
Cool. All right. So that was the process. What was the punchline? The punchline was we now have dimensionalized values backed by the words of giants. And this words of giants portion of this is everything in terms of us and how we experience it. The 3 questions that were asked, what does blank look like? So all in, competent, positive energy were the 3 values that we started with. And as you can see on the little graphic on the left-hand side, they each had a couple of textures, right? So something to work with. We had something to work with. We weren't starting from absolute scratch. It's often easier to react to something instead of just wide white space. So we were a little bit lucky in terms of that. What we ended up with was an 8-page document that captures feelings as well as behaviors. How do people, what does this mean? What does this feel like when you see it in play? As well as what are the behaviors we want to encourage and amplify for new folks to the business? Again, that tonality that values when you see them. We've all been in different coffee shops, for example, right? And there's the coffee shop you go to socialize, and there's a coffee shop where you go to hunker down and write the 12-page report. They're very different tonal experiences. And the way that each business is set up, even though they both sell coffee, you can make that at home, right? But you seek out one option versus the other for a reason. Values similarly have that power to create a container for what is welcome, what is interesting, what is aligned versus out of sync. So you'll notice, or I guess not here yet, but I'm jumping ahead, sorry. So we asked these 3 questions for all in, competent, what was called competent, and positive energy. We said, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And what isn't it? So where are the boundaries? Where are the kind of no-go zones for this thing? And that literally those 3 created so much conversation and texture that 111 direct quotes is a boil down of how much raw information we had to work with. So, so with that as our output, I think, Beth, do you want to comment on this before we kind of go value by value?
Yeah, I think what I would say is when you look at the image on the left, which is where we started, you know, value the stepping stones, right? Really value what's been laid down, whether that's an artifact in your organization, like this graphic rendering of the values previously, or it's the words. I can't emphasize enough this honor the past and build the future. Because if you're not careful, you'll pivot things so far with values that you'll lose everybody as you're attempting to do that. So I just think it's so important to know that culture work, values work, all of it is iterative and it's incremental. It's step by step. It's the pace of change. It's all these philosophical ways that we understand how to scale and grow businesses. From a human-centric standpoint. So just so important to be on your own side here, right? If this is a journey, this is not, if you're a small company, you're not going to have a great big long document with 111 quotes, but you might have even a visual image without any words. I mean, it could start anyway, but just know once you start, the best thing you can do is continue, like just keep this continuation of never done, right?
The other thing that I'll add too that I'm realizing we didn't mention at all in this deck is the value and essential component that is curiosity in having this process get you where you want to go. For example, just to paint that picture a little bit, where we start, like all in, fully committed to StickerGiant, willing to do what it takes. So does that mean you never see your family? Does that mean your goldfish is, not so much swimming at the top of the bowl? Does that mean you are so fully committed that you're putting in long hours every night and working every single weekend? Is that what that means? And exploring that, right? Asking that question, because that's in terms of those 3 probes in the center of this slide. What isn't it? That there's a lot of power in that question. Where is that boundary of being fully committed and willing to do what it takes? We're not looking for martyrs. We're looking for people who give the best they've got while they're here, but have a rich, robust life outside of StickerGiant, because that's what lets them do what they do at the level they do it when they are. So, so the value of curiosity can't be undersold in this process. I'm realizing we didn't put that word anywhere in the deck, so I just wanted to throw that out as well.
One last thing before you click the button. So,
sure.
Around curiosity, it is so important, but anytime you invoke some curiosity, right, you're invoking a sense of vulnerability, right? So I think the other thing we didn't actually, as now you and I are talking in this moment, there's some vulnerableness around as leaders in organizations saying we're going to look at the values again, that there is a tendency to want things to be solidified, right? So to have curiosity about things means that you're going to be vulnerable enough to open up other people's, our giants' input into this process. And that takes some courageousness to be that vulnerable and that open. And, I'll say it has a lot to do with transparency. And transparency isn't once and done either. Like oh my gosh, we keep learning things about transparency at StickerGiant, even though we say our aim is to be more and more transparent. So I think this is just one example, again, of our journey around all these things: curiosity, vulnerability, and transparency. So they're all alive and well here.
And just to add to that, Beth,
please do.
I think another thing that I'll flag is that notion of trust, right? And lived trust for people to go to. There's the vulnerability of the leadership team saying, like, let's ask these questions. And there's the vulnerability of the giants saying, I'm going to say something that maybe isn't on there and maybe is the opposite of what's actually on there. There's risk in that. There is, are you falling in line? Are you, being a good soldier? And we're not looking for that. We're looking for people who will challenge so that we can grow, so that we can improve. Yeah. So just to invoke another thought that Beth brought up earlier in our time together here, that oscillation between creating the culture by living the culture to create the culture by living the culture, and allowing for the iteration, allowing for the growth, being comfortable in the discomfort of the upset to create the new normal, right? There's so much power in that, as long as you kind of breathe into it and accept the shakiness of it.
I love it. We could hang out here the rest of the day.
But let's go on. Let's move on. So the 3 values that we came up with, we are a sticker company. So of course we developed sticker sheets, one for each value.
Oh, we're a label company too,
This is true. Sorry.
Yes.
The sticker's in the name, so it's the easier go-to, right? But yeah, sticker and label company. So of course we created these beautiful sticker sheets that have the name of the value in the center, and then the various dimensions, again, those feelings as well as behaviors as recorded by our giants. You can see it's much more dimensionalized than that little graphic that we started with that was on the left side of the page. Each one of these is more dimensionalized, and each of these kind of sub textures is backed by the quotes that are those 111 that we keep talking about, that were also a distillation of all the raw data that we had. So the front end, we had our leadership team describe a little bit about what's personally really powerful and meaningful to them. We're going to spend a few minutes here talking about, for us, some of the things that pop out and how our giants experienced it. Beth, do you have any for All In you want to kick off?
Yeah, the one under feelings for the greater good. It starts out, and again, I don't even know which of our giants made these quotes, right? Olga, she may know anecdotally and can remember. This quote starts out by saying, "I can get behind a company that supports its employees," right? And it's less about the whole sentence and more about get behind. This really, for me, this quote really was the whole idea around the leadership leading behind the values rather than leading in front of the values. So it's a great, if you're thinking about values work within your organization, boy, this quote really hits it home around people can't get behind what they didn't participate in, right? So not only that the company supports its employees in this quote, it's like, man, we got to really think about as leaders, what will people get behind? And the greatest likelihood is they'll get behind their own ideas, right? And their ideas of their friends, rather than me running out and pointing to a PowerPoint deck and they're all like, yeah, I got to get back to work. So I just love that one for sure.
Yeah, my observation on that one is always that you hire the best people because they are the expert or they have the raw matter to become the expert in their thing. And so we can't, right, like there are different ideas of leadership. And I wanted to kick a question back to you, Beth, about this phrase of lead from behind. And I'm just curious if you could just spend a minute just really painting that. What does that mean? What does that mean? Yeah. What does lead from behind mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Well, I don't know. I made it up. No, I'm just kidding. I kind of did. But
go on.
I really think, I'm really passionate about the whole concept of influence, right? In our personal lives, how influence happens, in the world, how influence happens, and certainly in the complex nature of organizations, how is influence happening? We're all always influencing each other, whether it's we're conscious or maybe even in our subconscious. So for me, lead behind really means, as a leadership team, we are saying, please influence us, rather than we lead from the front, we're going to influence you, right? Here's what you need to do. Here's our values. It's all this sort of, you put on somebody something, as opposed to you say, I'm really interested in knowing what you think about this. And beyond my interest in it, I'm going to take what you think and weave it into the ecosystem of what we're all doing here, which is really how we understand culture, right? Culture, the very nature of culture is just how do we do things around here is the simplest way it gets defined. So I think you can hear in my voice, like, I'm so passionate about this stuff that, long ago, have we lost the interest in leaders that tell us what to do, right? We've had some chatter at StickerGiant about, we're getting bigger and we're getting all these systems and we're getting more process oriented. Are we becoming corporate? And I just am like, no, because when you do some research on what that means to be corporate, it really means that the leaders are going to tell you what to think. They'll do the thinking and they're going to tell you how to think. And then you're going to do the work, right? And till my last breath at StickerGiant, my heart's desire is that we never get in a place where anybody in a leadership role, we now have an extended leadership team, no one is telling anybody how to think. We're actually saying, what do you think? Let's think together. And can you influence me? I'll say it all the time in meetings. I'll tell you what I think, but I'm only telling you that so that you'll influence the way I think. So I think about our values being the example of that, right? That at the heart of what we're attempting to do. And again, it's an attempt, right? This all sounds good. We are not perfect. We are far from perfect. We are on a journey. We ebb and flow in different things. We're a growing company. So certainly we have all sorts of struggles around our growth. But at the heart of that growth are people that care deeply for two things, each other and our company. And that means they get to influence me, and I encourage them to do that.
And the reason they care is because we care back, right? There's a reciprocity that's baked in there. On this slide, we've got on the far right, it's showing a commitment from both sides. That's what that means. People buy into StickerGiant because they see that StickerGiant buys into their success. It's literally in our strategic, that 2-pager, that vision action plan at the very beginning of the deck. Our business purpose is to be a great place to work, or I don't remember the label on that. Am I getting that right? Is that the purpose? In any case, it's one of our explicit stated goals is to be an amazing place to work, and giants feel that when we talk about wanting to be transparent and that invitation of tell us how you feel, give us your feedback. They see that we mean it because we then circle when they do that, they see how we circle back and report on what happened next, right? It's not just it goes in the black box and the door shuts and that's the end of that. They see the reciprocity in action in an ongoing and consistent way. Some of the other dimensions of all in here, that commitment from both sides, it's a very big one. And leaders setting the tone, I think we talked a little bit about that, how that comes to life for people. The other one on this that I wanted to flag is a big dimension that came out around all in, that question that I kind of teased a little bit on a slide ago. Doesn't mean you never see your wife and kids and goldfish, right? Or your friends, or get exercise. It doesn't. A big dimension that came out in the discussion around all in was that balance matters. So the little yin and yang symbol we have symbolizing that kind of attribute. Some of the quotes that came out around that, people talked about it's relative, and it's not just the 40 hours of a work week, but it's also flexing beyond what's in your literal job description. Sometimes you need to do a little, like, step outside of literally what is your domain to get the job done. So that balance around getting the work done without being a martyr, right? Like, how do we get to the goal? And that people are empowered to do those sorts of things. And some of the quotes that came out, you don't want to be so all in that you lose your balance. So you do go see your husband and your goldfish and your children, go hang out with your friends. But there's also this texture around no half-assing it, right? That quote from the mouth of a giant was about, when you're on the clock, be on the clock, be focused, do your thing, deliver the quality, which there's another attribute here, pride drives quality. That's about, when you're here, make it count. And then when you're out of here, make it count too. But that balance is super important. One of our supervisors, he nailed this when he said, I want your best work, not all your work. Overtime is great, but quality matters more, right? Yeah. So I think that's perfect. I
want to work for a person that says,
I know.
You know?
Exactly.
Can I get one more and then we'll move on to the next one? So the one I like here on All In, one of the quotes is, there's an attitude of, if it's not what you want, change it. So I think before we go to the next one, it's what's so alive and well, right? I said we're 20 years old at StickerGiant this year. And, John Fisher is the original StickerGiant, right? And now we're all giants. There's 91 of us at this point. It's hard to believe that we're growing that fast. But, John's an entrepreneur. He was one guy with one good idea, and he put that idea out into the world. And man, I love that. What we're still doing is enriching this entrepreneurial spirit that is still so alive and well from John's origination of this company with one guy with one good idea. It's like, you can be one person with one idea at StickerGiant, and it can change a lot of things if you have the courage to share it with us. The other thing I'll mention, I think it'll come up too as we move on, these documents, and we'd be happy to share them if you want to reach out to Olga and I. We share a lot of our collateral material. It's not all prettied up, right? And All In, there is no half-assing it, right? That's just the raw truth of things. And then there's, where's my other one? Oh, shit rolls downhill. Look out for each other as the work comes through, right? So it's like this recasting of the old shit runs down the hill, and it's going to land on you. It's not I'm me as the COO going to roll it down the hill on you. It's like we could all roll it down the hill on each other. So I just love the really unabashed candor that is in it feels like us in this document.
Yeah, this all in that shit rolls downhill, look out for each other as the work comes through. That was about how all in, when it's lived and real and done well, is about seeing us all as a part of the whole working toward the goal. There's another dimension here on pride drives quality, and people talking about taking individual responsibility, whether that's tailoring orders to customer needs to create a quality product for what I'm responsible for, but also supporting what you are all responsible for. This kind of locked arm in arm thing, people really feel it, and it's beautiful how it comes to life. So a lot of these dimensions certainly are interwoven with each other. But I love this one quote around, we spend a lot of time here, right? Everyone spends a lot of time in their workplace, and the pride is the propulsion.
I love that one too. Yeah.
Lovely. So let's move on. Otherwise, we'll keep talking about this one for all of our time. There's a lot to be said. Where are we time-wise? Okay. We need to go a little faster. So grow and learn is the second value. And maybe just a quick clip from you, Beth, and I'll hit the last one and we'll wrap up here.
The one I picked out was curiosity to explore all options and think beyond my team. Means less repeating past mistakes. So I love that, right? I can say curiosity, you can say curiosity, but one of our giants actually invoked that sense of curiosity, right, to explore all options. I'll say a quick note here. I mentioned EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, is one of the systems we use here to support our business. And there are a number of other ones. This idea around exploring all options really lives from EOS. There's a certain style of meeting we use called an L10, and we do what's called IDS, and it's identify, discuss, and solve. And when someone surfaces an idea or an issue in our business, it goes on an idea issues list, and then it goes into this meeting structure to get resolved and get the proper action. So I love seeing how the systems, if you will, the development system structures that we use are sprinkled all throughout our giants' quotes about these values. And that's just really encouraging to me to see that they're relating really directly to some of these systems rather than them being these like boxy structures. They actually are having a language around that. So I just love that.
Nice. And yeah, just paying attention to time, I'm going to zip us through here a little bit faster. Positive energy is the third value, and the dimension that I'll bring to life here. We have so many good ones, but positive energy, again, just stick that smile on your face, come into work and be happy all day. No, right? It's a little more nuanced than that. Being aware of our impact was one of the dimensions that came out around positive energy. That is a really potent dimension to have in your consciousness. That someone said it rubs off when someone's having a bad day. We've all experienced that. There's someone on your team who comes in, they're off today. Everyone else is like, ooh, so-and-so is off. You all know instantly when someone's just off their game. One of our folks, his quote was, people are tuning forks. You transfer your energy to others, so you have to be aware of it. So key dimension of positive energy isn't just what you're like, isn't just the aggregate being happy and smiley all day. It's also owning when you're not so happy and knowing that that has an impact on everyone else you're working with, because that all in energy, because that kind of, again, how all of these values are very interwoven with each other. You matter, right? You matter in your workplace. And it's not just our company culture, but it's each person individually that in aggregate creates that company culture, creates that vibe. So there's more to say here, but I'm going to zip us through the last couple of slides, if that's okay, Beth. So every single day, our values. So was this exercise worthwhile? And I will say, absolutely. Every single day, how we giant with a hashtag, please. We feel this. We feel our values every single day in how we do what we do at StickerGiant. The formal and the informal pieces of who we are ripe with our values, whether it's our all company huddles so that we make sure we have that grow and learn and feed the positive energy so everyone has that ownership orientation, so that everyone has that that feeling of transparency, that they know what they need to know to understand the whole. We do retrospectives where, well, pre-COVID, we've paused a little bit on them given our moment, but we were doing monthly retrospectives where we would pause and purposefully look at what was good, what was not so good, what do we want to tweak, that kind of thing, so that we're in an intentional way growing and learning. All in, right? Like there's I think Beth mentioned earlier the appreciations that are a very essential part of our culture. Every single Tuesday, used to be in person, now it's on Slack. We appreciate other giants publicly, so that people feel that recognition, and it really feeds that positive energy and that feeling of all in. So again, interwoven across the business, and in things like this unprecedented global moment of COVID, as well as the shape our DEI efforts are taking just this summer around the work that nationally we're all faced with, the glaring need that exists at the moment. So Beth, last thoughts on this one?
I think you did a great job there.
Okay, flying through it. So your slide, my dear.
Yeah, so as we sort of wrap this time together, sort of this rapid time together, I wanted to pull a quote, probably much like many of you with the racial justice situation that we have on our hands and a racism crisis. I'm doing more listening to people of color's voices. And this is a quote from Wes Moore. I'm a big Oprah fan. And he was recently on Super Soul Sunday and took the main stage. And what he said here was make sure that the people you are trying to help are part of the conversation and not just the subject of the conversation. Now, certainly he's talking about race relations and the way that as white people, we can get into these pejorative relationships. But really the thing here about values is make sure that the people you are trying to represent with the values, it's not being done to them, that their voices are in these values. So thank you, Wes Moore, for that. Olga, thank you so much for the work that you did to complete the collection of the voices of our giants. And oh my goodness, it's just you and I on this call. Thank you to all of our giants that participate in our values and our culture, that love each other and our company and continue to help us grow. So thank you guys for joining us.
I'm looking through our comment feed. This is an amazing presentation. And literally there's only praise. Fawn is, I love you all so much. F loves the design of your slides.
F, yay.
Oh, what an amazing session. Thank you both so very much.
We have an invite back when we're all back in person someday. Please come and see us. We have tours every week. We'd love to see all your faces and meet you in person. But get in touch in the meantime if there's anything.
If you buy LSW 2020 Slack, well, you know, it's a fundraiser. So if you help us fundraise for 2 entrepreneurial orgs in town, you can get some of their amazing sticker sheets that they have helped provide for LSW 20. So we love StickerGiant at the LSW team, and I'm so grateful that you joined us. I learned so much.
We're grateful to be a part of the community, and we are open. We're super business geeks. Write to us, call us, come by when we open up again so that you can see how we do what we do.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here.